All right, red-white cycling. I'm told this archetype's been putting up results in the standard 2021 or whatever they're calling it, the standard with that's already rotated with 4 sets. This deck here today is a build of it that has older cards from Amonkhet Remastered added to it, because Amonkhet also had a cycling thing. So in addition to Flourishing Fox, Drannith Healer, and Stinger here as cycling payoffs, we also have Hallowed One as a kind of cycling payoff. If we cycle 3 1-mana things on turn 3, we get a 4/4 for free. I think there's definitely a kind of a question of like, is putting this card into play on turn 3 good enough? Like you could theoretically have enough Hallowed Ones to put 2 or 3 of them or 4 of them into play on turn 3, but that's pretty unlikely. We also have Zenith Flare as the standard legal payoff, but then the big upgrade we get with Historic and Amonkhet cards is we get Cast Out, Imposing Vantasaur, and Desert Cerodon here as additional 1-mana cycling things. So the builds of cycling that have been standard legal have had to play blue cards or black cards in them because there aren't enough just 1-mana cyclers. In Historic, we also get to play Secluded Steppe as additional lands that also are cyclers. So let's go ahead and dive on into some games here with this and see how it goes. Heldrick, thank you for the 11 months of Prime. I appreciate that. Welcome back. It is time for your sword, Melodic Lyric. Thank you for the absurdly generous tier 3 and for the entire year of support. Welcome back. Pretty sure you just always keep Fox on 1. And don't cycle it on 1 by mistake. That would be a pretty big whoopsie poopsie. Okay, so if we find an untapped land next turn, we can Hallowed One. Can make this a 5/5 and Hallowed One. Nailed it. This is a pretty good start here. So Hallowed One gets cheaper for every time we discard a card. So when we cycle 3 things like this, Hallowed One becomes free. Yeah, I'm excited for the new Runeterra set too. Do I still have a Moto referral for renting cards? I never had a rental sponsor for Moto, silly cheese. Wow, did they just double block my Fox? Well, that's great for me. I was gonna Zenith Flare one of these. I was gonna Zenith Flare one of these things when they double block my Hallowed One and like blow them out with the spell, but like letting themselves just get blown out by any cycler. We'll take that. Okay, so there's always a question of, in these games, how much... Hey, is that a shirt? Thanks for the 10 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Yeah, if you're not into playing against counterspells, I've had a lot of people say that their experience on the ladder has been like dual decks, mono red versus Hallowed Fountains. So the question here is, how interactive do I want to get post board, and how much do I want to dilute my primary game plan? I feel like I at least want Lava Coils, and we have to give up a cycler to do that. It's probably Footfall Crater. I think actually keeping these big things is good. Croaky's calls the Hallowed Fountains Gandalf decks. Yeah, that's a good thing in a way. Like, I always refer to them as, like, feel smart decks, right? Like, those are, the Hallowed Fountain decks are the types of decks that people that fancy themselves good at Magic enjoy playing. They're the big brain feel smart decks. Which is why the community always complains loudly when they're not competitive. Because people tie up their emotional self-worth and their ability to play specific Magic decks. This deck would love a red-white fast land like so many other decks in this format. Just really, really want fast lands added to this format. So we need to draw a red source next turn so we can Hallowed one. I think with no land drawn, I just go ahead and coil this Annex and wait a turn just so we have the highest probability to do this. I really feel like they should rename War of the Spark the War on Magic, because that's definitely what it feels like as an outsider looking in. Alright, so do I Fox here then and get this and get cycling with this, because I'm pretty likely to brick on a land? And then, like, hope next turn to get Hallowed one into play? I think that's the play. We're only at one cycler in here as of yet. I think I block here because if they have a cleave, they're going to cleave here, and then I take infinite damage, so I'd rather just trade these, I think. Experiencing that ever lovely Magic resource variance. Okay. Second Hallowed one. Rats. Never lucky. And we're dead. That'll do, pig. That'll do. I mean, to be fair, like, I don't know that it's fair to criticize arena formats, Jake the Man. Like, ripples of War of the Spark were felt across the Magic multiverse, right? Like, you can't even go to Legacy or Vintage and escape Narset and 3-mana Teferi. Like, those cards are powerful and obnoxious. Well, I don't even think I think that's even too reductionist, Jin. Like, there's a ton, again, like, I think War of the Spark takes too much heat on the Planeswalker archetype and fed into the Planeswalker hate when it didn't need to. Like, the problem with War of the Spark wasn't that we had a bunch of Planeswalkers in it. The problem with War of the Spark is that for whatever reason, they decided to print a bunch of prison cards after a decade. And not only did they decide to print a bunch of prison cards, but they printed a bunch of prison cards that were one-sided. Like, the issue wasn't... The issue wasn't that Planeswalkers had static text. The issue is that they printed a bunch of Planeswalker static text that, like, also was one-sided prison effects. Like, there's a ton of Great Walkers in War of the Spark that... There's a ton of Great Walkers in War of the Spark that, like, have fine static abilities. Maybe I'm just supposed to triple cycle there. That could be right. Just, like, try and spike the untapped land and play 2 Hallowed ones. Yeah, the problem is if I go for it here and I miss, we just, like, lose on the spot, so I'm glad we hit. It's also possible here that, like, maybe I'm supposed to play this other Fox out. But, like, again, like, and this is, like, kind of the question in this deck is, like, well, I, like, kind of did the thing I was looking to do here, but, like, is putting 8 power into play on turn 3, like, is this good enough? I think there's a real chance that it's not, right? I think I'm obligated to trade here. They can't cleave me. Is there anything that blows that a single block? I'm probably supposed to just double block, right? Assume they're just trading. So do I Fox and get that spinning? I think I just put this in my hand. You're watching Match 1, Game 3, Little McNugget. Okay, so I'm gonna hope to spike a land here. Well, I guess land doesn't even do it, huh? So I don't have another cycler in hand? Yeah. I think that new player guide, and then just make sure you play through the tutorials, West Porter, is definitely the best recommendation. There's some optional extra tutorials. I'd recommend playing through all of them. And if you've already done that, just play the game. Hands-on experience is definitely ideal. So they're gonna cleave here and put us to 12. No, they're not cleaving. They're just getting rid of this. Sure. They got like a Lava Coil or something for this. Oh, that's true. If we would have hit a land, we would have played the Hollow 1-for-1. That's a good call. Yeah, and something sweet that Riot's doing that's really smart. They do a lot of things that are really smart. Is when their set drops today, they are adding a new gauntlet mode where you can play pre-constructed decks with the new cards in them that are free to play. So you can sample cards and get a feel for them before you invest wild cards resources into them. One of the things that, and it's funny to say this, one of the things that a lot of people have said to me over the last couple of days that's just not true, and I really need to echo that this is not the case, that people are like, Jeff, you're so angry. This is just how my voice sounds all the time, chat. I'm just not a timid mouse. So, like, I have confidence in what I'm saying, and I'm projecting my voice while I talk. So, like, when I'm talking about the things like resource variance in Magic or things I like and don't like, I'm not mad at the game. I've been playing Magic for decades. Like, I'm not upset about it. Like, I'm just talking matter-of-factly about the reality of what it is. It's not even about being disappointed. People just hear me talk about the reality of what the system is in Magic, and I'm not even saying it's inherently bad or awful, and I'm not mad at it. But saying that, okay, we lost this game because of resource variance, or there's nothing that we could do, like, that's just the truth sometimes. And there's so many people are like, oh, you're so mad about this. It's like, that's just like really not the case. Like, I'm not upset with Magic. I've played a ton of Magic. Yeah, and I think my speaking patterns and the way in which I present myself is definitely different than, like, the average mouse that people are used to hearing speak on Twitch. Yeah, that's the thing. There are a lot of people who think that anything negative about a topic means you have to hate it. Like, you're not allowed to be critical of things that they just miss lethal here, right? If they put this here, they just kill us. Probably doesn't matter because we're just dead. Yeah, that's the attitude that I really feel like if you're not simping to protect wizards and protecting whatever their fragile egos are, like, you're like obligated to hate Magic. A lot of people also can't. And this is, I really think that this goes to like the Stockholm syndrome or like the cultish personality around Magic is like, for a lot of people, I'm not allowed to be critical of things that Wizards does while also being excited about things that Riot does, right? Like, people are like, oh, you're only excited about Runeterra to crap on Magic. Like, they can't, the people are so pot committed to Magic, they can't fathom that people could like Magic and also like other things. Like, it's okay to, like Historic and, like, also really enjoy Runeterra. Like, those two things aren't mutually exclusive. It's okay to be critical of the shortcomings that Magic Arena has in hopes that they'll improve it and still enjoy playing other video games. This deck has some strange tension. I play a lot of cycling and the powers of redundancy without needing too many lands. Find Flare A. Here we have interaction. But, like, your statement's just wrong, a crappy lawyer. Like, I know you just watched a game where I, like, stumbled and died, and I drew, like, I literally had only 3 pieces of removal in my deck. So, like, you're saying, like, I'm playing a bunch of interaction, but, like, I boarded in 3 pieces of removal, and I explicitly talked about how I wasn't boarding in more than that because I didn't want to dilute my primary game plan. Yeah, I think that's actually really true too, Dr. Mr. Putty. I think it's kind of an indictment about the current state of Magic that people assume you can't be critical of it without being mad at it. Because I think there's a lot of people, like, they're projecting their current feelings about the game onto me. They're frustrated with it, so they assume I'm also obligated to be mad at it. And here, we're just like, we got 2 Zenith Flares in our hand. We're just like, kind of flipping through our deck. I'm gonna rev on up to those. I'm gonna go ahead and cycle at sorcery speed here, so if we find one of our 2-drops we want to put into play, we can. Spartan the Red, thank you for the 19 months. I appreciate that. Thanks for keeping me around. Yeah, I do. I also think that's true. I also think there's a very real chance that seeing how Historic has played out on average, that Hallowed One is just not a powerful enough addition to this archetype. Like, putting 4/4s into play on turn 3 or 4 just, like, isn't really objectively powerful in the context of Historic. Godspeed! Let's get you a sword to go with that shield. Thanks for the 12 months of support. I appreciate that. Welcome back.
I'm known for my excellent timing. You know what? I'm not.
So far, our ladder experience being about what I expected it to be. The ladder, since they banned Field of the Dead, has mostly been dual decks, mono red versus Hallowed Fountains. Okay, well, we get to put a thing into play, I suppose. Hey, Nivik, thanks for the 32. Missed that one. Alright, so do I put Drannith Stinger into play now and, like, wait a turn on Hallowed Fountain, or on Hallowed One? I think so. I guess I could spike an untapped land here and still put this into play. I'm not convinced that this deck is that powerful, Silence. Like, the actual results in this format so far don't seem to indicate that this deck has much legs to stand on. I try to be, bib. I do my best, and I appreciate people that like hold my feet to the fire when I'm genuinely not being fair. But I would like to think that in general I'm pretty fair in the criticisms I try to level. Yeah, I wanted to sign on early today so I could fit in 2 Magic decks before we switch to Runeterra when their new set goes live. Because I took a couple days off of Historic because of Wizards of the Coast incredibly silly format management. I wanted to make sure I got in a couple of Magic decks still today. I think I'm just playing Drannith Stinger again here. O'Hare, thanks for the 13 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Yeah, I think the Lulu deck, Lulu's the champion I'm looking forward to playing with the most. I have a Lulu Tarek build in the Q2 that looks really sweet. Sounds good, spreading seeds. That'll get bumped after I'm done streaming the day.
We need to move quickly.
Mind and body should move and meditate and prepare.
This is why there's copies of Fry on our board, by the way. And then I'd assume, like, I have these in my hand, but I would generally be very surprised if either of these resolved. Like, they've not played any counter spells yet this game.
Hurry.
Maybe we'll be really fortunate. We'll get to fire these off. Yeah, I agree. My experience so far, Panda Ninja, is that my theory craft that the format would be markedly worse without Field of the Dead in it is, in my opinion, so far seems to be the case. It's still early. There's still time for it to play out a little bit and change a little bit, but so far the format feels markedly worse to play with the changes that they made. And we're just dead here at this point, right? Like, they're at 27. Even if they don't have counter spells, these just don't kill them anymore. I'm gonna put some fries in. I'm gonna cut Go for Blood. Yeah, I'd rather have Go for Blood to have Fox kill their stupid Uro on occasion. Yeah, I agree. And unfortunately, this is the problem with, like, me trying to stack up deck queues in advance is moving forward, I'm going to be more selective about the historic decks I'm willing to take because I feel like the current changes in the format have made a number of decks a lot less competitive than they were when Field of the Dead was legal. That being said, I have a backlog of, 14 decks in my queue, so there's probably a good chance we're going to have more stinkers than normal over the course of the next week and a half as I work through that backlog of things that I accepted before they changed the format. That's just, unfortunately, the reality of it. Yeah, I agree with that, Ugg. I think decks like Blue-White Control existing is fine or even good. I think when they're tier 1, Magic is at its worst. I think the types of gameplay that they generate is really awful, in my subjective opinion. Yeah, if someone sends in a deck, the only caveat is that no one else has to have contributed to it. So, like, if someone submits a deck and, like, 2 or 3 other people donate money to see that deck sooner, then I don't let them change their submission, because that wouldn't be fair to the other people that bumped it. But if you paid to send something in and no one else has touched it in the queue, yeah, I'm all for letting you swap things out if you want to. Yeah, I think, I agree with Lurking Blade. I think Magic is at its best when aggressive decks are tier 1, because aggressive decks care about lots of interaction. The amount of incidentally dead cards you have against decks like Blue-White Control means that you just frequently have wrong half problems. Hey, there's nothing wrong with enjoying playing specific types of Magic, Seb. Like, a lot of what I'm talking about is super subjective. And, like, that I shouldn't have to say in my subjective opinion when giving an opinion, but the internet is so full of stupid people that want to put words in my mouth or imply that I said something is an objective fact when it was clearly just an opinion, that I feel obligated to say things like that because of what people will be like, well, you think your opinion is a fact. And it's like, well, no, I don't. That's not how we're just super dead here, right? Like, they have 5 cards in hand. They're gonna, like, block here. I'm gonna trade a Zenith Flare for the other half of it. I've got no action left. Yes, this game is over. Barbaric! Thanks for the 27 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Well, I don't even know that it's fair to say that your opinion is that unpopular, Seb. Like, more blue-white control mirrors, is like what Wizards wants. So, like, I don't even know that it's fair to say that, like, your opinion is that unpopular, because that seems to be the opinion that they want to sculpt the format to have. Much to the joy of my wife, I'm not playing Magic again until rotation. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a chance. I'm not going to stop playing Magic, but I think I'm gonna probably dial back how many decks I'm taking in and how many I'm playing until rotation happens. Because the current historic format's just been a little eh. Probably roll it back to like 1 deck a day and try and explicitly play the decks that are more competitive as opposed to just getting beat up. We do have Fox on 1. These are some of our best draws. Pioneer Masters will be sometime this fall after the next set releases. Ooh, it's not a red aggro deck or... It's not a red aggro deck or a... Probably blue-green flash. Crokies was streaming blue-green flash, so I assume that's just going to be all over the ladder here for the next little bit. This is generally speaking how that works. Yeah, a lot of people talk about not liking the design of Field, but actually, from a design, like, the actual decks themselves, I could, like, take or leave. I wasn't super married to them. But the actual, like, play pattern design of Field, I actually kind of really liked, because Field of the Dead, in a way, served to mitigate resource variance, right? Like, it was a thing that turned things that were normally bricks into something useful, right? It meant, like, when you were drawing lands, you weren't just bricking and dying. Yarok Field hadn't been competitive in a long time. Yarok Field was thoroughly outclassed in Historic. I did really like that deck when it was standard legal. You're definitely right. I think Temur Adventures is a playable archetype. Maybe. It's definitely playable in standard. Let's lead on this before we attack, so that way the things we cycle... It's rude. Now, I think restricted lists are fundamentally bad. A restricted list basically says, this thing sucks, but we only want it to happen some of the time. Restricted lists just increase variance to an absurd degree. Lands as win conditions feel offensive. Lukewarm Magic the Gathering take. Most playable things in Magic you could classify as offensive. I don't disagree with you that Field's offensive in a lot of different ways, but like that doesn't make it, yeah, just like a lot of the things that end up being playable in this game could be classified exactly like that. That's pretty good. Yeah, I think at the core the enablers were the issue, right? Like our premise. So that's lethal if they play a spell here. Okay. They're still dead, it's just annoying. Well, I guess they could have had another Pact of Negation there, huh? They could have theoretically had a Pact of Negation. No, I think offensive's the right word. I think the word you use is appropriate. How's this deck been so far? Kind of weak and underpowered. It's a synergy deck with pretty weak individual components. I mean, I didn't like Field personally because it snowballed. Most of Magic is snowbally things. Like, the gameplay in Magic in general is incredibly snowbally. And that's not, again, that's not an indictment, that's just a descriptive. Magic has snowbally gameplay, like, objectively has snowbally gameplay. Okay, so hopefully we can find an untapped land next turn and another 1-mana cycler and put this Hollow Boy out. They notably don't have double blue at the moment, so that's nice. So unfortunately do not have another 1-mana cycler, can cast one of these hollowed ones. Wow, I wish we could punish them there. If we just, like, had another 1-mana cycler, it's, like, lose on the spot. Yeah, it definitely would have, GNS. Like, an incredible difference. And I think at this point, we're at the kind of point of the game where it kind of shows that, like, what we're trying to do with Hollowed One here doesn't seem to be powerful enough. Like, I'm kind of doing what our deck wants to do and, like, putting Hollowed Ones into play here, but, like, the rate at which we're able to accomplish this just isn't good enough. Yeah, like, this isn't, like, this card, it was good in Modern because, like, you were frequently putting them into play on turns 1 and 2, and, like, when they're not happening on turns 1 and 2, they're just too fair for these formats. Maybe they won't have any counter spells, and we'll get to Zenith Flare a bunch and kill them, but that's pretty unlikely at this point. Alright, so they have another Night Pack Ambusher here, and we're dead. Good beats. Hey, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. Hope you're staying safe out there. Well, it's not a Fox on 1, but it's definitely a keep. I think I want to lead on this. Yeah, I expect if Croquis has an even okay run with the Flash deck, it'll just be all over the ladder. Will likely be the result. He has a pretty heavy sway over what people end up playing. Yeah, the Flash decks when they're good represent very little player agency on the other side of the board, right? Like when the Flash deck is working, the opponent basically doesn't play Magic. That's what they exist to have happen. How's the cycling deck been? Pretty underwhelming. Pretty kind of typical like synergy deck problems. Like our average card quality is kind of low. We'll see if Drannith Stinger here can go the distance or not. We're gonna Drannith Stinger plus a cast out here. The fact that we were on the play, for those of you that are new, being on the play is real good against the Flash deck. Knacker, thanks for the 16 months. I appreciate it. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. Okay. Am I casting a 3/6? Who wants to cast a 3/6? I think I do. Nice Flash deck. Imposing Vantasaur. Alright, we finally queued into something that wasn't one of the two good decks, so we won. That kind of feels like it's been the theme of the last yesterday and today. Like our brews are fine and fun and interesting against other brews, and against mono red and hollowed fountain, we just get stuffed into little boxes. Has been the tough part. It's definitely much harder to attack these kind of hollowed fountain ramp decks than it was to attack Field of the Dead. They're just like hitting on so many different axes. Yeah, I think this is fine. We'll Drannith Stinger on 2 into triple cycle Hallowed 1 on 3. He says, optimistically, hoping to draw another 1-mana cycling card. Nailed it. Hey, Beansy, thanks for the 13 months. I appreciate it. And thanks for watching enough to be our first shillionaire. Morning, Charizard. Life is swell. Hey. All right, let's draw 2 more Hallowed boys and girls, huh? Come on, give me a Hallowed one. 3rd Hallowed one. Rats, never lucky. Claim these. These are not my firstborn. You cannot claim them. So, do I play all 3 of these, or do I like double Fox plus cycle the Drannith Stinger? I think I'm supposed to cycle the Stinger. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to go threat, and then plan to cycle this. I mean, like, if I have 4 threats, do I really need reach? I'm just going wide around their blockers. I don't think you can afford to go bigger in these decks, Seth. Like, going bigger in this format, if you're gonna go big in this format, you have to go big enough to beat... You have to go big enough to beat blue-white control, and I don't think that's really possible. Yeah, we're always well organized on this stream if you're new. So if you're looking for Magic decks that are coming up later, Runeterra decks, what variety games we're going to be playing, all of that can be found in the deck queue on my website. He made it into the do you follow any of these channels section on the new MTG survey. God bless. I'm a real streamer. All right, chat, everybody go fill out. Could you post a link to the survey? Is it the one on their Twitter? Could someone get a link to the survey so we can put it in chat? If I made the list, we'll encourage people to go fill it out. Flame Sweep sounds good against the Young Pyromancer deck. Maybe a couple of Lava Coils here as well. I don't think you really want to board more than four cards in. We don't want to dilute your primary game plan. They're always, pro tip, Silence, they're always long. Doing everyone tagging Discord for that one. I think we mulligan this. No Fox on 1, no second land. Like, I have some cyclers, but I think I'd rather dig 4. Actually, am I supposed to keep this? They're a Thoughtseize deck. So against a non-Thoughtseize deck, I think this is an easy mulligan. Against a Thoughtseize deck, I'm going to double take and keep, actually. Because again, game theory optimal play against Thoughtseize is basically just don't mulligan, because you don't want to start down cards. Nailed it. Maybe I'm supposed to wait to play this until I Flame Sweep or Lava Coil. Can see that. I think I just passed here. Which Magic the Other Universe is the prettiest artwork? I actually really liked Eldraine for that. I think I'm just passing with Flame Sweep up. Like, little issues aside, I actually think Eldraine was like an incredibly good world. Fox is a great pickup here. We'll just go threat, pass. Ooh, Lorwyn Shadowmoor is a good answer too. Pretty sure we just want to keep their threats dead. This might be wrong to cycle these with the hollowed one in hand, but I like getting in a hit this turn. I'm pretty likely to draw more cycling cards, he said his famous last words. Ikoria had dinosaurs too, right? Ixalan definitely did. They left Pioneer off. How do you like to play what formats of Magic? Lol. I think we just start by attacking for 6 here, and then we'll go tapped land hollowed one. He said before killing them with Zenith Flare. Nuclear launch detected. Alright, so far we're 0-2 against good decks and 2-0 against bad decks. He said lovingly. I like the Pyromancer deck, but it's definitely not one of the better decks. Definitely not one of the best decks at the moment. What I say the best decks are. I don't know what iteration of them are. Some form of blue-white control, likely splashing for Uro, and then some form of red aggro. If you ask me to pick out the best decks in the format at the moment. Format's still fresh, coming off of a ban, but I think from a theory perspective, those are the two I would expect to come out on top. I don't know exactly what they look like, but those archetypes specifically are ones that I would want to watch. I don't think the Citadel deck's consistent enough. I think the average power level of the Citadel deck when it doesn't have Citadel in play isn't quite there. I think it's really linear. I think Citadel's a lot like Goblins. Its good draws are incredible, but its average draw or its draw when it gets disrupted a little bit tends to be underwhelming. Alright, one of your finest hollowed ones, please. Do 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 do. The wizard survey is not short. If you're going to take the time to fill out the wizard survey, you should allot 10 to 15 minutes to do it. I appreciate everybody that fills it out. That marks me as a creator, though. Thanks for being a part of our community here. I don't really enjoy... Nobody's submitted it, but I also don't really enjoy playing that style of deck, Quilcy. If you want to watch someone play blue-white control, I'd encourage you to go watch Gabriel Nassif rather than give me money. Take whatever money you were going to pay me to play it and just, like, send him a donation with it, because he's going to play it anyways. Yeah, innuendo. Like, those surveys like that have ups and downs to them. There's upsides to surveying in the way they do, and there's also downsides. Yeah, I'm a big fan of a rising tide raises all boats, right? Like, Gabriel Nassif, Crokies, Caleb Durward, these people having success in no way takes away from my ability to have success. In fact, those people being good and bringing more people into Magic and the card game community on Twitch in general serves to benefit me as a content creator. Selenus, thanks for the half a year. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. But my capitalism, I mean true capitalism, not whatever thing that Republicans claim to like. In true capitalism, having competition is good for people. Competition drives innovation. I mean, to be fair, Jin, LSV is like a great Magic player with a good history, but like he doesn't consistently make Magic content on Twitch at least. Like he writes for Channel Fireball, but like his streaming is pretty sporadic. Oh, we're gonna get Coco'd. This was a punt. Yeah, I messed this up. So I should have just played out this other Drannith Stinger and started cycling and probably end up killing them. No, I'm gonna die. Yeah, like they'd be at 1 if this next card's a cycler, they would have died here. Yeah, I would have killed them. Yeah, I mean, for the record, like, the list of creators that Wizards put there, that isn't a list of people that they like. Those are just a list of people that, like, they know have a presence in the Magic community. So, like, me being on that list doesn't mean all of a sudden that I'm gonna get, like, support or acknowledgement or recognition from Wizards, right? Yeah, I think I threw this game away. How many of the players in the Magic Pro League can you name? You know, since they stopped streaming, I don't think I can name any people in the MPL. Like, I like, my entire life is tied up in Magic, and, like, I can't tell you who's still MPL and who's rivals and what the difference is. And, like, is Autumn still in the MPL? Is Autumn still in the MPL? Like, I genuinely don't know if Autumn's still in the MPL or not, or if they're rivals. Yeah, I threw this game away. So we would have won that if I would have looked at 4 lands and not attacked into a collected company. Lava Coils and Desert Cerodon's out. For reference, BW Panda, Autumn prefers they, their pronouns, not she. And in general, you should probably just use they, their pronouns because they work for everyone if you're uncertain. Just as a good, like, rule of thumb, online communication type thing. Fox on one, chat. Can't lose. God bless you, BW Panda. Sorry, I forgot. Sorry, I messed up. That's the appropriate response. It's okay. People are human and mistakes happen. Oh, maybe I'm supposed to save Gopher Blood there. If this thing's gonna be big, that could be useful. Ooh, we get to Hollow Boy next turn. Land, cycle, cycle, cycle. Why? Is there anything else you can still tell us? Yes, why has Teferi not been deleted? Yes, people who are used to my sub-surveys, this is not a Hoaglandia sub-survey. It's real long. Alright, I think I'm actually supposed to get Fox going rather than Hollowed One here. I think building up a second Fox rather than getting a 4-4 out is more important. Hey, I really appreciate that, Frenzied Mage. Thanks for the 31 months. Hope you're staying safe out there. Good on you playing the real stock market, not making Magic more expensive for people. I mean, and again, just to, like, show that I'm not, like, I try to be fair and balanced. Like, my surveys are targeted with a different reason than Wizards of the Coast. Like, people always criticize that, like, long surveys are inherently bad. They're not. They're just different. So, like, a survey being long gives you different type of results than a survey being short. And that doesn't mean that the survey being long is inherently wrong. It's something that's important to understand. So, yes, you will have fewer people complete that survey in its entirety, but that doesn't mean, like, the types of data you're getting is different. You'll have less of it, but you'll have more data. Whereas, like, when I send out a sub-survey, it's intended to be sub 5 minutes because my primary goal is to get feedback from as many subs as possible so I know the approximate direction of my content is good. Like, they're trying to get more focused information. I just want, like, general feels. And to get general feels, I want it to be short. Yeah, and that's why, like, even though my surveys are short, I always put, like, free answer responses on it, so that way if you have something more you want to say, you can do that. This one feels long even by WotC standards. Oh, Lord. 2% per question. Whew. So they're gonna get to start going ham on my graveyard here, but I have a cast out to get rid of this down the line. We're just hoping to fade, like, Maelstrom Pulse here. This makes 2 mana when you have a creature with 4 or more powers. They're going to eat 3 more things here. You have removed my 1/1 counters, opponent. Hey, thank you for the very generous tier 3 resub, Judge Nader. I really appreciate that. Welcome back. Thank you for the 37 months. So they can gain 2, 3, 4, 5 here with the Scavenging Ooze. But if they don't have another threat, I get to cast out the Ooze and then crack for a lot. Yes, they do, Judgeinator. Will do. Tier 3 subs can bump a deck by a good deal of points or add a new deck even if they prefer. Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, definitely, Snowswords. I believe the patch is supposed to go live by 1 p.m. Central, Android. Either way, even if it goes up early, I'm playing Magic till 1. I have a schedule, and I stick to it, generally speaking. So they can eat one thing and go to 14. So if I attack with both of these, they're probably inclined to chump block. Yeah, 11 a.m. PT. Cool. My understanding is correct. So they can eat Hollowed 1, they gain 1, they go to 14, they take 12 down to 2. But, like, there's a ton of creatures. Actually, aren't that many creatures in the bin, are there? They still have Great Henge, though. I know it's long. I appreciate everybody that fills out the WotC survey, though, and tags their favorite content creator as well as me. Alright, so we're dead now. That'll do pig. So, I punted game 1 in that match. It's very easy to get frustrated with the second one where there wasn't really a whole lot we could do, but the first game, if I had sequenced around Collected Company, I would have killed them guaranteed. Should have played around it, and then we would have gotten to game 3. Yeah, exactly. It's always very easy to, like, focus on the one game where you didn't have any agency, but, like, you often have agency in one of the 3 games. Alright. Fox on the play, double Hollowed 1. Let's see if this is enough to beat blue-white control. Esper control? Okay. Wait, is Historic really not listed as a format? Someone else said Pioneer wasn't listed, but did they really leave off Historic? It is. Okay. Historic is, Pioneer's not. Okay, good. Historic was on there. Good. Alright, untapped lands. They're conceding. Got it. Nice Esper deck. Nice Esper deck, chat. That survey made me feel bad for not having my own spreadsheet of cost expenditures for MTG. In general, so like, I keep spreadsheets for business purposes, but in general, I would encourage everybody to log what you spend on Arena, Paper Magic, games like Raid, if you played that like I do. It's these games are designed to encourage you to spend money in small bits over time, which makes it easy to lose track of how much you actually spend. So it could definitely be eye-opening if you're someone that doesn't keep track of it and you start and you realize what you're actually spending. And like, and sometimes it's okay, if you're okay with the amount you've spent, that's fine. Like, you should spend money if you have it on things that you enjoy, but you should be responsible and like, at least know what you're spending. I'm going to bring in 2 Fry, because they could be a Narset deck. I'm going to hold off on the 3rd until we see Narset, though. think I'm keeping this. Doesn't have a Fox on one, but it's got a Stinger on two and a Hollowed one to follow it up. Yeah, credit card companies are great. You can even, if you're someone that plays mobile games like me, you can even usually search Google Play purchases that go to a specific company. So like I can search like Google Play Polarium and it pulls up all my read spending. We're a real non-rotating format, chat. We even have busted hate cards. We even have busted hate cards that are very fun to play against. I mean, credit card companies are great in the same way that, like, Raid can be great to play, right? Like, are credit card companies incredibly predatory and trying to get you to make mistakes and give them lots of money? Sure. Do they also provide something useful that you'll use? Yes, definitely. Like, both of those things can be true. I'm gonna cut Zenith Flare. I think I'm gonna bring in some Fight as one to play, have some counters for their sweepers. So I'll have Fry and Fight as one. I mean, that's not strict. So, like, still is good bottom. They're only terrible when you're being irresponsible. I think that's also something that's not strictly true. Those, especially, like, mobile games and stuff like that, you know, credit card companies, too, they are designed in a way that's intending to prey upon certain types of people and encourage bad behavior. So, like, sure, while if you are super responsible, you can technically avoid everything, but they definitely try and trick people into spending more doing stuff that isn't good for them. Maybe I should have played this tapped on one. I'm gonna cycle something here to give myself extra chances at a land drop. I guess that's not... Yeah, I think I'm supposed to cycle one of them now. Two more shots at an untapped land. And the game's over? I think the game's over at this point, right? Definitely over. Definitely over. Alright, let's do one more with this. The games that we've actually been playing have been okay, but definitely does not feel like this deck is playable against Hallowed Fountain decks, which I think is going to be the theme of a lot of these brews, like I said. I think attacking these Hallowed Fountain control decks is incredibly difficult for the average Magic brew, and you need to be just have a really high raw power level in order to be competitive against them. They're going to really restrict what's playable in this format. Mid-range decks are largely going to be strangled out unless they're incredibly powerful. You mean like Field of the Dead? No, Field of the Dead was incredibly attackable for mid-range decks. Anybody that tells you mid-range couldn't keep up with Field of the Dead was either someone that was stupid or didn't know how to build decks appropriately. The types of decks that Field of the Dead strangled out of the format were ones like we just played against. So Field of the Dead served to keep do-nothing control decks not competitive. It did not hurt mid-range decks in the slightest. Your mid-range decks had a ton of great tools to beat Field of the Dead. Questing Beast, Ember Cleave, Demonic Embrace, various flying creatures. Lots of removal spells like Legion's End. Yeah, field killed Dirtle control, and Dirtle control devours mid-range. I think I'm cycling this now, even though I could potentially get one more damage with it later, because I just want to start filling my graveyard up so we can work towards Zenith Flare ASAP. I mean, again, to be fair to Wizards, them polling you on what non-Magic games you play is valuable to them. They want to know what's eating into their market share. Like, if you're an existing or previous Magic player and you now play other games instead, that's really valuable information for them to have. Like, their survey's definitely long, but it asks a lot of good questions from a data collection standpoint. I think that's a great take from 10 Ton Hammer. People who said mid-range couldn't beat Field of the Dead were trying to build modern Jund and Historic without paying attention to format-specific elements that mid-range decks require. Big agree. Your interactive deck and how good it is largely depends on what else is good in the format. So we were hoping to dodge Woe Strider here. They hit it. This probably isn't beatable. So to push my glasses up and actually you here for a moment, German Space Ace, more questions actually don't equal more data, because more questions actually limit the number of people that are going to respond to your survey, so you get better information from the less data you're collecting. So you have fewer data points, but the data points that you have are more robust. I guess it depends on how you want to define data, I suppose. Maybe I'm just supposed to cycle this. So we can sack something here in response and kill the fox. The hope here is that we just, like, draw a bunch of cyclers in a row and then punk them out with Zenith Flare. Yeah, and honestly, like, surveys like that, and this is why, even if you don't like a game like Runeterra, you should want it to be successful, because, like, Wizards taking surveys like that and seeing Runeterra eats into some of their player base will cause them, like, that type of information. If you want this application to have less predatory card acquisition models and be more generous like these other newer games, like, information like that is what drives that. Like, them collecting and seeing, like, okay, our customers are going to these other things because they're more generous. We need to be more generous. Yeah, competition drives innovation. I've frequently voiced that I think one of the things that the suits or whoever is making decisions at Wizards of the Coast fail to realize consistently is that you get more money by giving people stuff for free. And that's counterintuitive in a lot of ways, but giving your players a little bit of something will, if your product is good, giving people some of it for free will encourage them to spend. The first bump and occasional bumps in the middle need to be free to remind them that, yeah, I like this. This is good. Take my money and give me more of this thing that I enjoy. All right, so definitely want Lava Coil here. I don't know if this is a Flame Sweep matchup. probably is. They have Mana Dorks, and they have Woe Striders, they have Midnight Reaper. It's probably a Flame Sweep matchup. I don't know, 5 pieces of interaction's a lot. I might be boarding in too much. What amount of free stuff would you give on Arena? I'm an exclusive free-to-play player, and I think the rewards are enough. I don't even know that you specifically need to give more volume, Robin, so much as you need to be able to give players more of specifically what they want. So I'm not a free-to-play player, but I do know from a pay-to-play experience, Arena tends to be unsatisfying because I frequently spend money and don't actually get what I want. There's so much, yeah, not necessarily quantity, but the quality of what you get, I think is severely lacking. And if the quality of what I'm getting is lacking as a pay-to-play player, I have to imagine that's a similar feeling for free-to-play players as well. Yeah, I actually think that's a good example. That would be good too. Making mana bases more accessible. AMS Kiss Fan, thanks for the quarter of a year. I think it's an incredible feel bad that people are expected to like spend a bunch of resources collecting mana bases in this game. Mana bases are not fun or interesting. They just aren't. You have to, mana bases are like this tedious pre-game that you have to acquire and get to then play the actual game itself. Yeah, and you don't even have to make them free, honestly. You could just be like, okay, there's this pack in the store, and the pack in the store just gives you all the dual lands. Every time there's a new set with dual lands that drop, I know I could buy and just get all the dual lands. Like, could you imagine if there was just like somewhere between $10 and $20 pack in the store every set release that just gave you all the dual lands? Like, I bet a lot of people who never spend money would spend money on that because it would accelerate your progress so meaningfully. And things like that tend to be very important, where little deals, and this is an economics thing again, where when you getting players to spend money the first time is the biggest hurdle. So by giving a deal that would be extra incentivizing to free-to-play players, you convert those people that would normally spend nothing into spending a little something. And like, once you've ripped that band-aid off of, okay, I spent a little something, it's easier to get those players to spend again. Especially if you put up more good deals on occasion. It's true, cheap deals turn me into a raid whale. Listen, if Wizards of the Coast was half as good as Raid Shadow Legends at taking money away from their players, most of us would be broke. As someone that keeps a spreadsheet of all the games that I've spent money on, Raid is definitely the game I've spent the most money on in the last year. And I don't believe it's particularly close. Yeah, Arena's like a little over half. That's still not super close, though. I think I'm supposed to trade these here. Okay, so we need to spike an untapped land here so that way we can play 2 hollowed ones. Alright. We have to... Oh, I have to cycle a Fox, but I think that's worth it to put 2 4/4s out. Runeterra set goes live later this afternoon. Now you're gonna have to tell us how much you've spent on Raid. Alright, I would like the record to reflect that I've done 4 Raid-sponsored streams at this point, and while I can't disclose the amount that they pay me due to an NDA, this amount is less than they've paid me, and it's tax deductible for me. My Raid Shadow Legends spending for 2020 is $1,530.25. And when I give you that number, I would like to suffix it also with that amount does not make me a Raid whale. If you've never played a gacha game before, like the gacha game whales, they spend one of their content producers did the math, and like one of the people that won one of their in-game tournaments, they had to spend something like $20,000 to win the in-game tournament. Like magic whales don't even scratch the surface of like mobile game gacha whales. Yeah, like whales for gacha games, they spend my yearly expenditure there like per month. All right, I'm waiting to cycle. We might have a triple hollowed one turn 3 here. All right, we need an untapped land, chat. Nailed it. I was definitely expecting closer to 5K with all that prefixing. No, not quite that much. We did it. We did it. We did it. Hooray! Hoglid, you pathetic dolphin. I am quite the dolphin. Dekis, we've peaked. This is definitely the last match. We've thoroughly peaked. We're gonna move to some blood shift after this. Definitely want Lava Coil here. Probably want Flame Sweep. I think we just board like we boarded against the last one. Cerodon and Drannith out. Looks like they're a cat oven deck. Thanks for sharing. I can tell you exactly. I can tell you, am I playing Raid? No, I don't usually play Raid while I stream. Sometimes it'll have multi-battles going off to the side, but I'm not grinding anything right now. I can tell you exactly how much I've spent on every game I play this year. For example, my Magic Arena expenditures for just 2020 are $814.89. Wyatt the Word Weaver, thanks for the 7 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Do you play Raid before the first sponsored segment? Yes. I was playing for about a month. I watch Philip DeFranco a lot. He's someone that I've talked about that makes content, and he had sponsored plugs from them, and I signed up through his thing at one point to give it a try because I was looking for a mobile game. Gonna guess Runeterra is less than 200 bucks. I have an incredible amount of Runeterra cosmetics at this point, And my Runeterra spending is $531.20. For the sake of transparency. I basically bought their first 2 sets outright without free to playing anything because I wanted the cards right away. And then I also bought a bunch of cosmetics. How much are the sets? Someone did the math, and the 3rd set that released today to Runeterra to get 100% of the cards in the Runeterra set releasing today is just under $160, assuming you have no free-to-play currency, which you likely will have a lot of from playing Runeterra. Yeah, and that's not like Magic where, like, you buy 200 packs and are still missing a bunch of mythics. That's, like, full completion. Like, full playsets of everything. $160, 100% done. What's it like being open and clear? Capitalists hate me. Thanks for the 19 months, Singular. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Active treason. They couldn't claim our firstborn, chat, but he's rather treasonous. Daily reminder, discuss your salaries with your colleagues. It'll piss your boss off and it's good for the soul. That's a big truth right there. The only reason it is taboo to discuss what you make with other people you work with is because your boss doesn't want the other people you work with to find out that they underpay some of you. I might actually want to play this Footfall Crater at some point. Some. As many, and when I say underpay some of you, I mean they want to underpay as many of you as they possibly can.
Chandra, you need more control. Go get him, buddies.
Alright, so I think we just Lava Coil this and then kill Chandra. I'm the architect of a software team and I did the interviewing. Our team lead makes less than all of our other senior devs because she asked for less in the interview. That's, yeah.
Just walk it off, Chandra.
It was funny, I remember, so for people that aren't familiar with my background, I have now 3 children, and when my oldest son was born, I was a stay-at-home dad, and I quit my corporate job to do that, and I quit my corporate job to do that, and when I told them I was putting in my 2 weeks notice, they offered me a 20% raise. Which I obviously turned down, but it was one of those like, oh, so you could have been paying me 20% more this entire time. What department of a corporate job? I was a systems analyst for a major insurance company. I did process automation and risk and issue management for them. You're point this game, or we could have used Go for Blood to kill the priest. Maybe. Yeah, I think you're right that I should have prioritized doing that. So we're at a virtual 1 with this Ramanap runes, which is a little scary. They only have 3 cards in the bin right now. They need 5 for Woe Strider. That'll do big. Yeah, I think the person in chat that pointed out I should have prioritized taking the priest off the table is right. I think I had a window to do that and I missed it. That was definitely, I think that loss was definitely on me. We're dead to the Ramanap runes and the Chandra. A lot of jobs have tried to guilt me to stay. I told my previous boss my last day a month in advance because I had made the decision, and she spent the next month singling me out and saying how much they'll miss me and you're such a good worker, but they didn't have the decency to offer me more money. Yep. I think we keep this, huh? It's got Zenith Flare, it's got plenty of removal spells. Yeah, I heard Venture. That's why I've got the survey linked in the title. Cycle in case we find a fox. I'm gonna pay 2 here and cycle this because I'd really like to hit my 3rd land on curve. Oh, yeah, I think you're right that I could have top decked Zenith Flare. If you don't like leaks, cover your eyes. I'm pro sharing leaks on this stream because I firmly believe you can't take the piss out of a swimming pool. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a warrior or equipment card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest of the body of your library in order. Create a 1/1 core warrior creature token. You may attach an equipment to it. Deals damage to a creature planeswalker with twice the number of equipment you control. So we're gonna have. Are we gonna have swords this? Maybe we'll get swords again. That would be sweet. Swords aren't a Zendikar thing, though, right? Equipment focus sounds fun, though. Alright, so am I playing Hallowed One? I don't think so. I think I'm just passing and flame sweeping. Yeah, if you type !Dex in chat, you'll get a link to my stream. You'll get a link to my Runeterra decks. You can also find decks that are in my deck queue up on my website. I'm gonna flame sweep in response to these tokens, so I don't want them to be able to sack the tokens to draw a card. I think, and this is tough, and this is Hallowed One definitely has created some awkward tension with my other cycling payoffs. I think I'm just going threat here, and we're sitting on Hallowed One for now. What do you say about taking a leak in a pool? People that are like, no, I'm not going to look at or share spoilers. Like, you can't take the piss back out of a swimming pool. Once the spoiler's out there, I firmly believe it's fair game for anybody that wants to look at it to look at it. Like, you taking some moral high ground, not looking at it, doesn't actually change the result that it was leaked. Pushman, thanks for the 11 months. I appreciate it. Welcome back. Man, we just got dumpstered. Just super punished. These Claim the Firstborn decks are just so brutal for these creature decks. Just does not feel competitive most of the time. Yeah, that's true too. If you don't think Wizards of the Coast intentionally leak things, you're very silly. They definitely do. Yeah, I just can't win at this point. I guess we could Zenith Flare this, I guess, and maybe have a shot. We'll do this for now, but we're very likely just dead.
Say hi to my
Yeah, the red-black pyro list we played yesterday is very good. Probably gonna end up throwing that one up on the website. I don't know. I don't actually know that I like this, and this is... I guess we could draw cast out. I don't actually know that I like the Citadel variations more than... I don't know that I like the Citadel variations more than just like these low to the ground builds. The low to the ground builds seem really good with Cat Oven and stuff in them still. Like, the Citadel builds feel really clunky and all in on Citadel, and when they don't have Citadel in play, they're a collection of pretty anemic, weak cards. Alright, at any rate, I don't know that Hollowed One feels like it necessarily added value to this archetype. There's some awkward tension in how you elect to sequence your cycling things with Fox and Hollowed One together. Putting just some 4/4s into play on turns like 3, 4, 5 really isn't that powerful overall. So yeah, I think it's just too fair for this format without something like Goblin Lore, Burning Inquisition. Yeah, I really wish we would have gotten the red 1-drop with Menace that gets bigger when you cycle something. Like, I think that would have been a very good, like, extra Fox threat for this archetype. But yeah, I think this card, when you occasionally have a bunch of them, it's cute. Flameblade Adept. Yeah, I really wish Flameblade Adept would have been an AKR. That was a card I think would have been a very good addition to this archetype, because this archetype feels like it struggles to have consistent early pressure, and having 8 good 1 aggressive drops would be very good for it. And I think if we get that in like Pioneer Remastered, that could be good. Yeah, I think that was really weird for them to not print into the format. So, all right, we're not done yet, so don't go anywhere. We're doing one more Magic deck, and then we're going to roll into a bunch of the new Rune Terra set. Up next, we are going to be playing... What are we doing next? We're playing some Bloodshift up next. We've got a sweet Blood Sun, Hour of Promise, Lotus Field deck. I'm going to go ahead and restart Arena here really quick and get things flipped over.